Imagine, just for a moment, stepping into a library unlike any other. This isn't your neighborhood library, with neatly stacked shelves arranged by genre and author, where the hum of quiet readers fills the air. No, this library stretches beyond anything you've ever conceived. It is infinite. Endless corridors spiral in every direction, floors stacked higher than the tallest skyscraper, shelves packed wall to wall with books that seem to go on forever. Each book is unique, yet many are utterly incomprehensible, a random collection of letters and words. This is the library of your imagination, the library of all possible books, a place where every book that could ever be written, every combination of letters, every permutation of sentences, every conceivable narrative exists. The profound and the absurd, the true and the false, the beautiful and the chaotic. Here lies every possible piece of knowledge and every possible falsehood, every secret of the universe, every answer to every question you've ever asked, but also every meaningless jumble of gibberish you could never hope to decipher. What would it mean to wander such a place? To search for meaning among an ocean of infinite noise? This is not just a whimsical thought, it's a thought experiment that invites us to confront the vastness of information and the nature of knowledge itself. It forces us to ask, how do we find meaning in a universe flooded with data? How do we separate truth from falsehood when both exist side by side, indistinguishable without context? And ultimately, what is the value of discovery if all knowledge already exists somewhere in this infinite expanse? The idea of this infinite library, sometimes called the Library of Babel, was famously imagined by the Argentine writer Jorge Luis Borges. In his short story by that name, Borges describes a universe consisting entirely of a vast library, an infinite space filled with hexagonal galleries stacked endlessly, containing every book that can be composed from a finite alphabet of symbols. He imagined a place where the very fabric of reality was a sea of text, a labyrinth of every truth and every lie. Think about this. If every possible book exists somewhere in this library, then everything ever written, everything ever thought, and everything yet to be conceived is already there. The recipe for the perfect chocolate cake, the secrets of the stars, the complete works of Shakespeare, and the complete works of Shakespeare with every letter replaced by a different one, diaries of future lives, blueprints to inventions that have not yet been invented, histories that never happened, fantasies more wild than you can imagine. It's overwhelming just to conceive. But here is the paradox. The vast majority of these books are nothing but random nonsense, strings of letters with no meaning or structure. Only a tiny fraction contain coherent ideas or truths, and even the meaningful ones are indistinguishable at first glance from the meaningless piles of random characters. How would you ever find the book that holds the answers you seek? How would you know, standing amid this ocean of books, which one to trust? In many ways, this mirrors our modern experience with information. Today, we live in an age where data is generated at an unprecedented rate. Books, articles, videos, messages, and images flood the internet every second. We have access to a seemingly infinite library of knowledge, but it's also filled with misinformation, contradictions, and distractions. The challenge of discerning truth from falsehood, signal from noise, is as relevant now as it was in Borges's imagined library. Imagine trying to find a single meaningful book in an infinite sea of randomness. No matter how long you search, there's no guarantee you'll ever find it. Or you might find many truths that contradict each other or that don't make sense without a guiding framework. This highlights a deeper question. Is knowledge valuable only because it is scarce, or does its value lie elsewhere? If all knowledge already exists, somewhere, somehow, what then is the meaning of discovery or learning? The infinite library challenges our very relationship with knowledge and meaning. It forces us to consider whether the act of discovery, the journey itself, is more important than the destination. Perhaps meaning arises not from the static information stored on pages, but from the context, interpretation, and engagement we bring to it. Another layer to this thought experiment is the role of the seeker, you, the reader, or the thinker, wandering these endless halls. If every truth and every falsehood coexist infinitely, then meaning is not inherent in the books, but emerges from your interaction with them. It depends on your ability to decode, interpret, and synthesize fragments of information into coherent understanding. This raises profound philosophical questions about knowledge itself. Is knowledge objective and absolute, or is it subjective and contextual? How much of what we call truth is shaped by our perspectives, biases, and limitations? Borges's infinite library suggests that in a universe of infinite possibilities, the challenge is not simply accumulating information, but navigating complexity and ambiguity. Moreover, this paradox can feel overwhelming. The vastness of infinite possibilities can paralyze rather than inspire. If every answer is somewhere, and every falsehood is also somewhere, how can we trust any knowledge? How do we avoid nihilism or skepticism that dismisses all knowledge as arbitrary? Yet the infinite library is also a celebration of human curiosity and the thirst for understanding. It reminds us that while the universe of knowledge may be boundless, our quest to make sense of it is what defines us. It invites humility, recognizing that we are just tiny explorers in an ocean of complexity. But it also invites perseverance, the understanding that even in the face of infinite noise, meaningful patterns can emerge. In a more poetic sense, the infinite library also invites us to think about creativity and the act of writing, of storytelling itself. Every story, every idea, has already been written somewhere in that library, yet new stories continue to be created every day. This tension between infinite possibility and unique creation is part of the mystery of human imagination. As we reflect on this thought experiment, it gently draws us to an understanding that knowledge and meaning are not simply commodities to be found on a shelf, but experiences to be cultivated. It invites us to see that in a world filled with overwhelming information, our minds are not simply passive receivers, but active seekers, shaping what we find into meaningful understanding. So, next time you feel overwhelmed by the flood of information in your life, by endless news, social media posts, or countless books on a topic, remember the infinite library. It's a metaphor, a mirror reflecting the complexity of knowledge and the human condition. And as you drift off to sleep, think about the quiet beauty of wandering endless halls of books, knowing that somewhere in that vastness lies a spark of wisdom, waiting for your mind to discover it. As we ponder the immensity of infinite knowledge and the chaos within it, let's gently shift our attention from the external labyrinth of bookshelves to the internal labyrinth of the self. What happens when we ask, "Who am I?" and begin to unravel the layers of identity itself? Our next thought experiment will take us from the infinite library to the infinite self, where the boundaries of change, memory, and essence blur in equally mind bending ways. The ship of Theseus. Can something remain the same when everything changes? What if every single part of your body was slowly replaced, piece by piece? Imagine the sensation, or the lack of it, as the cells, molecules, and atoms that make you up one by one vanish and are replaced by new ones. After a full cycle, every part of you is different, yet you wake up, look in the mirror, and see the same person staring back. Are you still the same person, or has something essential been lost? What defines you as you when your physical makeup is constantly changing? This deceptively simple question lies at the heart of an ancient philosophical paradox known as the ship of Theseus. It asks us to confront our assumptions about identity, change, and what it truly means to be the same over time. The ship of Theseus is not just a curious mental puzzle, it probes deep into the nature of existence and challenges how we think about continuity in a world where nothing stays exactly the same. The paradox has its roots in classical philosophy. Theseus, a hero of Greek mythology, was said to have sailed on a ship that over many years underwent repairs and replacements of its wooden planks. Eventually, every single plank was replaced. The question arose, was this ship, after all those changes, still the original ship of Theseus? Or had it become something entirely different? To make matters more complicated, suppose the removed planks were gathered and reassembled elsewhere. Which of the two, the repaired ship or the reconstructed one, was truly the original? This thought experiment is not just about ships. It applies to everything around us: the cars we drive, the houses we live in, the cells in our own bodies. Everything changes gradually or suddenly, yet somehow we perceive an underlying continuity. When you look back on your childhood photos, you see a different version of yourself, yet you consider it the same you through time. How do we reconcile change and sameness? To explore this further, picture your own body. Human biology tells it that most cells in your body are replaced over time. For example, your skin completely renews itself roughly every few weeks. The cells lining your stomach regenerate about every few days, and even the bones renew themselves over years. Though the pace varies, this means that over a span of several years, the vast majority of your physical matter has been replaced. If you are literally made of new stuff, can you still be called the same person? Some might argue that what makes you you is not the matter, but the pattern, the arrangement of your cells, the structure of your brain, your memories, personality, and consciousness. If the pattern remains consistent, then identity is preserved despite material change. But if the pattern changes, does the self disappear or morph into someone else? On the other hand, there are views that assert an immutable essence or soul that underlies all change, something beyond physical matter and arrangement. According to these perspectives, your identity persists because of this unchanging core, no matter what happens to your body. But then consider a related, more complicated scenario. Suppose you not only replace each plank of the ship gradually, but also assemble a second ship from the discarded planks. Now there are two ships, one repaired piece by piece, and one reconstructed from the original parts. Which one, if either, deserves to be called the ship of Theseus? This raises a problem for the pattern theory of identity. If identity depends only on pattern, then both ships share the same pattern. But can they both be the original? Or is identity exclusive and singular? Philosophers have wrestled with this paradox for centuries. Some propose that identity is not a